Hey guys, it's Pete from Pete from Anxiety here. Welcome to today's episode. I appreciate y'all being here so much. Let's talk about a few things real quick. The Pete vs. Anxiety Team Anxiety Facebook group. Are you a part of it? You're not? What are you waiting for? The link's down here in the description down below, or go to Facebook and search Pete vs. Anxiety. Then look for the Team Anxiety team page and join it today. Why not? You can join and help. It'll be great. Yeah, like right now. Hurry up. Stop what you're doing. Pause this video. Go do it right now. But anyways, let's also talk about the Pete vs. Anxiety YouTube page. If you're here right now, you're probably following it most likely. If not, head on over there, subscribe, be sure to like and comment on the videos and let me know, because all that stuff really helps, guys. I really appreciate it. And help me break the stigma that mental health is talked about enough. But anyways, guys, let's get into today's episode. I'll have a great one. Thank you so much again. And as I always say, don't ask how your day is, ask how your mental health is today. Guys, welcome to an exciting episode of Pete vs. Anxiety. My guest today is the founder of the Horsemanship Journey and developer of the Stable Living Coaching. Stable Living Coaching offers help for hurting and struggling teens and parents using principles seen in horses to reduce anxiety, stress, depression, and increase self-confidence and self-esteem. Please welcome in the host of the Stable Parenting Podcast, the one, the only, Shane Jacobs. How you doing, Shane?
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate the opportunity to be with you. I love your show.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it, man. So why don't you tell me a little bit more about how you even got started? I mean, I get that you're using a lot of principles with horses, which I think is a very interesting concept.
How far do you want to go back, Pete?
We go as far as you want to, Shane. You let us have it, buddy. We want to know about it, because I think it's very fascinating, honestly. I think how you're comparing, the principles that in horses is very interesting in itself.
All right, I'm going to go back a ways, and then I'll tie it into horses. So,
okay,
when I, as a young man, as a teen, and even into my early 20s, when I was a young man, I had this noise, this chatter in my head that, for whatever reason, telling me that I wasn't good enough, didn't measure up, I was inadequate, I was inferior, and I really, I don't have a place to pin it on. I can't say that I had a specific trauma, that I had a bad upbringing. I felt like I had a stable family life, and everything was okay. Nonetheless, I think we all go through this to some degree, but I was listening. Whatever I was doing, I reacted to different than a lot of people do. But I heard those messages. I tried to fit in, tried to fit into groups. I did pretty good in sports. I did pretty good in school, but still, nonetheless, I'm having a hard time being around, fitting into groups and making friends and all of this, right? It's very difficult, and it feels clunky and uncomfortable, and I don't want to do it. And here's the thing, it felt awful. It felt awful. And as a young, I didn't know what to do with that. I had no idea what to do with it until I found a solution. I found out how to cure that when I was 16, when I first experienced alcohol. And let me just tell you, as you can probably possibly relate, game over, problem solved. I mean, I got this now. Inhibition's gone. I felt this bad, uncomfortable feeling was gone. I felt happy. I felt comfortable. I felt like I could. It was just a totally different deal. And as a result of that little process that I just described, that led me to an alcoholic life where I drank alcohol to excess every day. And when I mean to excess, I don't mean like a couple extra. I mean like a serious alcohol problem. Okay, barely functioning alcohol problem. And in that, over all that time, I left behind me a trail of literal pain and destruction and suffering for so many people. Not even to mention my, own pain and suffering and lack of progress and everything else. It was not a good time, and it progressively got worse. I always wanted to be a cowboy. As actually named after a movie. There's a movie called Shane that came out near the time that I was born. So my mom named me after a character in a Western movie, Shane. And I wanted to grow up and ride horses and do all the cool things that cowboys do. And so I did. And I've done a lot of those things. But horses helped me. In one of the things that they help me do is they help me see that they were a mirror for me. That was the big thing. They were a mirror for me. They helped me see that what was going on between me and them, it was me, because they were simply mirroring me. Now, I came to find out that the rest of the world does that too, but before then I was kind of, it's easy, I think, a lot for a lot of us, and I was blaming the other people in the world for my circumstance, so I didn't have that responsibility. But when I saw horses and I said, well, why isn't this working? And as I got further, deeper and deeper into it, and with horses and the relationships and the training and the communication, I saw that those horses were simply mirroring what's inside of me. Hadn't even fully discovered what's inside of me, but they could feel what was inside of me was coming out, and they were reacting to it. The thing of it is the world, human beings do that to us too, but I just couldn't see it as easily. And so when I like to say, with the grace of God and the help of horses, I finally broke that cycle. And when I broke it. I mean, I broke it right now. And as I looked back after a period of time, I look back on my early life, and I just said, and we've all kind of maybe said this. And what I said was, if I would have known then what I know now, right?
Yeah.
But I really meant that, because this simple little process that I'm talking about, these little things, like they seem little things, but they're not. Ideas like, hey, what do you do when you feel bad? Is it okay to feel bad? Is the goal to be happy all the time? What do I need to do to manage this negative emotion that I'm having? And what do I need to do to develop, or I didn't even know that I could develop beliefs about myself. I thought it was just the way it was. I didn't know that I had the agency and the power inside me to choose what I truly held to be true about myself, and that would be the way that it was. And so when I looked back and I said, I wish I would have known then, eventually between that and my connection with horses is where, I started our stable living coaching.
That's awesome, though. I mean, you think about it, because you have a passion for horses already. You want to be a cowboy, so you're already hitting all those things already. So it's something you're passionate about, and then you didn't realize it then, but you found out that the horses are reacting to your emotions, which are it's interesting in general. Horses are just interesting because not a lot of people get to interact with horses. Like people see them, but it's like when you get to really get in there and actually interact with the animals, you see how a lot of them react to your emotions, much like dogs do the same thing too. Like they feed on your emotions and things like that. Sometimes cats do the same thing too, though, and all these things all play hand in hand, which is great though, because now here you are, you have a successful, business, you have a podcast that you're helping people, which, I mean, is that how the podcast started though? How did you get into it exactly?
Yeah, I first started a personal development for horse people, and then that kind of led to my real passion is with teens and parents, because of my story.
Yeah.
And because I really, and I've seen it and I'm living it. And I want to, I have a message for the world that I intend to get out to as many people as possible. I have some goals about how many people to reach with my message, because I'm for real about my message, because I know these simple shifts inside of our mental health. That's why I love your show so much. I mean, we have such a focus on, I think we know this, and I think that's what you're all about, but we have such a focus on our fitness and what we look like and longevity and our weight and everything. And I'm all about all that. But I think there's a true lack of mental of awareness of mental health. And here's one of the things I think is why. I think it is why that we just haven't, I think it's because of lack of knowledge. We've all heard these terms. There's mountains of research. Okay. I mean, there's so much research out there. It's really incredible. So the information's there, but we hear terms like self-confidence, self-esteem, loving relationship with yourself, your self-concept, and blah, 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 on and on and on. And we think we know these things are important, but we have a view. It's kind of, I think it's like a default view, because the people that I talk to have a view like this. Oh yeah, confidence. I'm pretty confident. I did that one. I kind of accomplished that and checked it off my to-do list back in my, early 20s and whatever, whenever it's something that I kind of accomplished, and I can prove it to myself because you see him over there, see what he's doing. That's what people who lack confidence do. See, I'm not doing that. So we kind of have this kind of bare minimum mentality about what mental health is, and that's just one piece of it, one example. But I don't think really as important as I believe it is important.
No, I agree. I agree. I don't think people talk about it enough. I think when it comes to mental health, like you said, I think people don't know enough. And it's proven already. A lot of the conversations that happen, a lot of people don't understand all the things. Like they know anxiety, depression, but it goes deeper than that, though. Like there's BPD and, there's extreme cases of anxiety, all these other things that people could deal with. What is it? DAD is the other one, too. It's a new one. It used to be called multiple personality disorder, but now it's dissociative whatever it is disorder. I can't think of the top of my head, but it's so interesting though that people only hear those few things. Well, I'm depressed or I have anxiety and things like that. It's like, yeah, okay, we have all these things, but are we talking about it enough? We're not, because when it comes to these conversations, it's just like people see these things. And then the way they react is they act like they've never seen them before. It's like what you just said. I'm excited. I have anxiety. I have depression. But then the things you say after that make no sense because you don't really understand what it's like. And, I was talking to somebody about it this morning and it was an interesting conversation. So I was explaining them what it was like for my anxiety, how it reacts to things. And she was just like, so like, nothing's going to happen, right? I'm like, yeah, see, that's not how it works. Like when it gets in my head, it starts bouncing around 1,000 ways from Sunday, and things like that. And she just looks at me and goes, okay, well, but there's nothing that's going to happen. I'm like, yeah, it's easy to say that, but you surely I don't think you're really getting this conversation of how this goes. Like my brain likes to take things and run with it, you can see that a lot of people just don't get it though. When you explain it to them, they still look at you and go, well, if you're sad, if you're depressed, just be happier. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't work like that, unfortunately. I wish that's how it worked for a lot of us, Hey, when you have anxiety, don't worry about it so much. Yeah, it's easier said than done when coming to those conversations. I'm glad that, you think it's just like, okay, snap your fingers and the problem solved, but it's really not how this works, unfortunately.
Yep, you're right. These are complex things. Here's what I see. I agree with your comments, and that there's a lot in what you just said. And one of the things that struck a chord with me about what you were just talking about is that what I see a lot of times is if a person hasn't received a specific diagnosis, okay, then they may not identify with, anything, with even feeling bad, or let's just say anxiety or depression, something.
Yeah.
One of these, and these are serious subjects. Okay, these are real things. They may not identify with that, and so therefore, if they haven't received a diagnosis, they don't think it's about it, or they just think that sometimes things are sad and sometimes they're happy, and we're just reacting to whatever is available in the world. But even if we feel pretty content on the inside, okay, let's just say that we're reasonably content, okay, but we feel like something's missing, something's lacking, and I believe that a lot of people I talk to is why that we have this internal yearning for progression, but we really don't know how to get it done.
Yeah.
Because there's so much available in these incredible supercomputers behind, in the top of our heads. It's just unbelievable of what is available, of what we can accomplish and what we can go and what life can be like and what we contribute to ourselves and the people that we love and to the world and everything. It is like limitless. And so, but it all begins with what's happening upstairs.
No, I agree 100%. I think you're hitting it right on all notes there. It's all about what's going on behind your eyes, and everything that's going on upstairs in the supercomputer. And it's like, yeah, when you explain it to people, they look at you, and they go, oh, okay. So I think it's interesting when you talk to people and then certain people, that just don't get it, but you're watching them And the way they react is so funny because they're just like, oh, okay, that's what that is. Well, so just don't do these things. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't work like that unnecessarily. Like my boss does that to me all the time. She's like, well, we shouldn't just freak out, I'm like, but it doesn't work like that, unfortunately. Like I'm trying to explain to you what's going on, and she'll look at you and she'll say she understands you, but she doesn't understand you. You can tell by the way she says things or the comments that she makes or the tone of voice. Like she's trying to understand, but at the same time, she just doesn't get it, and other people are the same way though. And I feel like that's why this conversation needs to happen. And I love the fact that you're working with teens though, because I think if we start at an early age, that we can get them educated more by the time they become adults, they'll better understand these things, and they could better identify a lot of problems that people are having, or notice something is wrong ahead of time, because now they're more educated to how to recognize these things as they come about.
For sure. For sure. I've the thing that I've seen, what I hold to be true about this, and I've studied mental health, I've studied human behavior for a long time, for a solid 10 years plus. And the thing that I see in myself and with the people that I work with and from my study is that, I really like to go to the root, to the core. And I believe that we have so much control over what's happening around us and to us that it's incredible. And I believe that a lot of times people don't, I pose this question and they're just kind of stunned. I say, if you could believe anything you wanted to about yourself, how would that be? How would that be? What if you could? I'm just saying, what if you could?
Yeah.
Okay. Because here's the thing. What I believe is about the core beliefs, okay, that we hold to be true about ourselves, okay, is determine more of our outcomes. They influence more of our relationships. They influence more of the people around us. They influence more of how much money we make and what we consider to be successful. All of our outcomes and results in our lives, the number one determining factor, there's a lot of factors, but the most significant factor is what we hold to be true about ourselves. The thing of it is what we don't realize is beliefs are something that can be developed. So the answer to my question is what if you can believe anything about yourself that you wanted to? Well, guess what? You can. And the beliefs there's specific, just like you said, we can be educated and understand specific steps to move towards the beliefs that you choose in this lifetime. Hey, it's all yours, man. Whatever you want it to be. And I'm telling you that this is what's going to is going to have the most impact on your life than any other thing, because at the root of this of anxiety, and at the root of depression, and at the root of mental, I'm not a doctor, and so I'm not going to speak to illnesses and diagnoses specifically, right, but the people that I coach and in my life, at the root of what's going on with us and them is what we really hold to be true about ourselves. And the reason we think, hey, I'm doing pretty good, I kind of like me today, things are going pretty good, and we think that we all got it, but we don't, because it's an ongoing lifelong pursuit. And it goes just like this. Feeling pretty good. Oh, what did they say about me? Oh,
right.
Now what am I going to do with that and make it mean? Because here's the thing, Pete. If I don't intentionally choose what I want to make that believe, it's going to affect my core beliefs about myself to some degree. And subconsciously, it's going to happen. So here's the thing. Our beliefs about ourselves are being determined whether we know or care about it or not. It's happening. So you can either make the choice to choose to have it the way you want to be, or be at the fact of circumstances in your life.
Yeah.
Hey, great job, Shane. Today you did an excellent job in that podcast. Oh, all right. Boy, man, I am pretty good, aren't I, Pete? I did a great job today. Oh, and it's like it's ongoing throughout our lifetime.
Yeah.
And so the management of that is absolutely critical to, to our results.
Yeah, no, you're right, 100%. And I love when you point out that you're not a doctor or anything, because I don't think none of us have to be, man. Honestly, to have these conversations, I mean, you just gotta want to have the open conversation. Like, everything you do really matters. Like, you don't have to be a trained professional to make a difference in somebody's life, man. And the fact that you're willing to work with people, your teens, especially teens, man. Like, you don't know what you're going to get out of a teen. A lot of times, the emotions and things that come with that, everything else like that, and it's always interesting because it's interesting to their perspective on things. What the kids think these days versus what we know now. Like, had I known a lot of things I know before starting this, okay, this would have been a whole other ball game. But in the beginning of this thing, I've learned so much stuff since the beginning of this podcast when I started it about a year ago and things like that, and all these great conversations that we continue to have is just, I don't tell anybody I'm an expert because I'm not. I'm just an average guy who even started his own mental health journey. And then I started getting to meet great people such as yourself and other fellow podcasters, which is awesome because along the way, you just keep meeting these new people and that the conversation keeps going. And this show is in demand. Like, there's people that are out to at least October on a Monday show I do, of just people that want to come in and have different opinions of things. And that's the great thing about it. I just feel like, you know, all I am is just creating that safe space, and I don't have to be an expert to help people. Like, people come share their stories, other people hear their stories. I can connect other people to other people that, do different things in the fields and things like yourself, and I could tell them all. And it's great for having you guys come on here, talk about exactly what it is y'all are doing out there, because I think talk therapy, a lot of people feel that's the end all be all, but it's not, Shane. You're proving it's not the point. It's like you're doing something totally different. You're doing something way different, and it's working. You've got people that you're making a difference with, especially teens. Like I said, that is a tough market right there, because you never know what you're going to get for them. And it's hats off to you, because that's a rough area to be in, especially with emotional teenagers and things like that. Geez, man, I don't know if I could do that part of it.
Teens do seem kind of volatile at times, that's for sure. I know I was.
Right.
Kind of all over the map, and we want our freedom and when we're young, and we want to be adults, and we're just not fully mature, but we want to be treated that way. And I don't know, but the thing of it is that what I've found to be true is that at the core, these are just slightly underdeveloped, and sometimes it's hard to even notice that because they have so much information available. They seem like a fully mature adult at 16 years old or whatever. But the thing about it is they're just young human beings, and the same things hold to be true. Our same emotional needs need to be met to be able to be healthy. We want to feel a sense of connection, and a lot of teens don't. We want to set a sense of belonging, and like that we fit into the group. I mean, this is a core foundation. This is not just for teens. Okay, you look why people are unhappy at work. It goes back to the same foundational emotional needs. Okay, of why you quit changing jobs or why your turnover is high at your company. This is a human being thing. I just happen to deal with younger versions of human beings. And then we want significance, right? We want to feel like that what we do matters, and that we're important in life, and that we're a part of a bigger, piece of something that's going to make a difference. We want to be significant in the world. And that goes to the way that we treat each other. But, it comes to, and I'll come back to the horses real quick. Let me just tell you about coming into my barn or any other barn. You come to the barn or the pasture where the horses are, and if you thought to yourself, and I've done this many times, oh, I've got this stuff milling around in my mind. I have this conflict inside of me, and I'm just going to go out with the horses and mill around for a while and think about it. I'm going to keep it to myself and just kind of be there. Well, I thought I was going to keep the secret. No deal. There's no secrets in the barn. Okay.
Yeah.
I walk into that barn, and those horses automatically, I'm like, what am I doing? How do you know what's going on with me? But they know, they can tell. They might not know exactly what it is, certainly, but they do know that something's amiss, and they're aware, and they're ready to move and react and find out, hey, what's wrong? Is something wrong with us? Is the whole world going to end? What's happening here? Because they can sense it and they can feel it. And as I resolve this, surely they pick up on fear and they react on fear. And so it's a cycle with horses and humans that as we fear, they fear. And that's a really good one to see, because the same things are happening with me and you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you may not be quite as perceptive because see, horses can't communicate the same way we do and reason the same way so they're actually more reactive than human beings and a little bit more intuitive because they need to be to survive. But you're unbeknownst to me, okay, you're going to be picking up a lot of what's inside of me. And whether I know it or not, that's what, the whole law of attraction is really about is what you believe about yourself and believe about your future, and the beliefs that you have and what's going on inside of you will be manifested. And it does with horses, and it does with human beings. These things that we believe to be true and are so foundational and so key and so the knowledge just isn't out there, right? And there are certain things that we can do. There's steps, there's systems that we can go through and habits that we can develop to change, to become more of who we want to be. And that is what my mission is all about, because I want more and more people, and I want the people that I deal with to be able to not only to look in the mirror and say, hey, to themselves, to say, hey, I love you, man, with all my heart and soul. And to mean it and to believe it, regardless of anything that they've done or in any of that. Because a lot of us are packing around a lot of this underlying stuff with guilt and shame for things that we've done or things that have been done to us, that it's unresolved and it's making us mean something about ourselves. It's not helping us.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. Shane, let me ask you a question though. But the Stable Parenting Podcast, how long has it been around now?
Yeah, good question. I appreciate that. It began as the Horsemanship Journey podcast.
Yeah,
but then
see, I remember that in your description of your bio, it said that, and I was going to get to that question too, but you already answered it for me now. I was wondering because I was looking at it, and then I'm looking at the page, and I seen, oh, look, there it is right there. It says Stable Parenting. I was like, wait a minute, that's got to be what the podcast is. So that's interesting how it went from one to the other. So how did it change to that, though?
Yeah, it's a good question. So our main focus began with personal development for horse people, which was working pretty good. But however, to be as good as we could be in that field, we needed to be doing more live things that involved the people and the horse and the coach all together. So the horse was absent, which I felt like was not as good as it could be because one of the participants weren't there.
Yeah.
So we transitioned into and plus this is my real passion. Okay. This is my true, what I'm about inside of me, based on my story and what I am. I'm all about it. Okay. That's what is in my heart and soul, is because of my life experience. And so, it's new. We just transitioned. For a while, we were the Horsemanship Journey, talking to parents and coaches, or parents and teens, but that didn't make people are like, huh, what? The horsemanship, huh? That didn't make sense, So we're just transitioned our name. We're still doing talking primarily to parents and teens, not solely, but most of the people in stable living coaching that come to me that have stuff going on are parents and teens.
Well, that's interesting, though. Do you tell a lot of your coaching people that come and see you that don't know about your podcast? You tell them about it, like, "Hey, listen, I do this podcast. You should check it out sometime." Is that how you were marketing it to people?
We try to promote the podcast as much as we can. It's out there for people to learn from. We go through a lot of this stuff. It's similar to yours. You can learn so much from our podcasts and from podcasts like yours and like yours, others. And so, I really try to promote the podcast. It's part of where people come eventually a lot from time to time, because we ask people in our in our coaching clients, where they found us, and some come from podcasts, and if they haven't, we refer the podcast because it's an additional free resource, and it is a resource. There's a lot of good stuff that's available.
I think that's really awesome, though. I think it's interesting because, when I started this show, I didn't really talk about it as much, but now I talk to everybody about it. I'm like, yeah, I do a podcast in my free time. I'm here. Oh, you do a podcast? And people are so interested to know that you're doing it, because they're like, oh, wow, what is it about? And then you tell them what it's about. And then some of the reactions you get, it's like, you can tell some people are just kind of like, okay, yeah, and other people are like really interested. They're like, oh man, please tell me more about it. Like, what is it? Where is it at? I'm like, I'm pretty much everywhere. Now I'm like, I talk about to everybody. I'm online playing with friends on these video games. I'm hitting everybody up like, oh yeah, yeah, I do a podcast or whatever. You know, and somebody said, oh, you do a podcast? I'm like, yeah, yeah. What's it about? And I tell people, you know, oh, I do mental health and things like that. You know, we have different discussions. I'm on, you know, spot. I got the whole pitch down and everything too. And I bring it up to everybody I talk to. And it's funny because a lot of people I know that come into where I work now are just like always talking to me about it. Like, oh, listen, I love what you're doing, you know, and all these kind of things. Or I see you're online doing these all these same things. I'm like, yeah, you know, and everybody that's on comes on all has the same feeling. They're all like, man, this is really interesting that you know you're doing this. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything other than having a conversation with people. I'm bringing great guests in to have these conversations with, you know, expanding people's horizons to all the different things that people are doing out there, you know, and things like that. And it's great though, because I think a lot of people don't realize, you know, how much more people you reach with a podcast because you got audio, you got, you know, the video side of it, you have all these different things. You know, everybody's like, oh, I don't like this. I'm on iHeartRadio. This, well, I'm on iHeartRadio too. You know, it's like it was funny in the beginning because a lot of people were like, well, I'm on everything. Let me tell you right now, I'm on every single thing. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, Spotify all the way down to iHeartRadio. I've hit every of those major ones and some of the really random ones too. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm like, yeah, you know, and it's so fascinating when people find out, you know, when you do podcasting, because they're like, oh yeah, well, how hard is it to do? Well, in the beginning, it was rough. Now it's a lot better, and I've discovered some tools to help me along the way. But at the beginning, it was rough, man. I was trying to schedule all these people on my own and things like that. Now I got digital schedulers and things like that to help me along the way. And you know, it's crazy because someone had mentioned my name on a podcast the other day I was listening to, and it's so surreal, man. I'm just like, whoa, hold on, they're talking about me over here. Damn, okay, hold on, I gotta pinch myself. This reality, really, what's going on here? You know, and it's still surreal when you hear people say that, or people come and go like, hey, listen, I watched your podcast, I really like what you're doing. You know, it's like pinch me, and this isn't really happening, but at the same time, it's like you don't realize how many people you reach, and it's random people sometimes too. Like, oh man, I heard your podcast, I've been listening to it. I'm like, oh, you've been listening to it? Like, or I have family members that are like that too. My brother, he's actually a psychiatric nurse. He's a head of a psychiatric nurse department now, but even he says the same thing. He's like, oh man, you like every time you talk about something, you know, it's interesting to hear your opinion. I'm like, yeah, because none of y'all listened to me before. I was always the middle child, hasn't really heard much. Now I got a voice and a platform for people to listen to. Now everybody wants to listen to what I have to say, and it makes me laugh every time.
Yeah, that's awesome. I find that people that are ready for a message find that message, you know, and the people that the people that are, you know, that don't, they're just not ready. You know what I'm saying? They're not there. But I think that when people hear, as the word gets out, so that's awesome. You're hearing about yourself in all different kinds of places, because yeah, you're out there, and podcasting is out there.
Right. You know, and it's funny because a lot of guests I meet too, sometimes me and a couple friends, we all share, we suggest guests to each other. And some of them were like, oh yeah, they were talking about you. So-and-so is saying something about you. Oh yeah. And I like to joke with people too. Oh yeah, what were they saying bad about me? Just tell me. It's okay. Tell me the truth that they were talking bad about me, you know? But it's so surreal because everybody's like, oh yeah, you know, Pete. I'm like, oh God, they're talking about me. You know, it's so funny because it's like, all I'm doing is just having conversations with people. That's it, man. And I feel like when you have a real conversation with people, you get a better message versus just drilling you with 10,000 different questions. Because I could sit here and ask you 20 questions, you know, and I'll get one answer. But if I start having a genuine conversation like we are now, you get a lot more emotion out of it, and a lot more feeling comes out from people because they feel more comfortable. They don't feel so like they're on edge having to wait for these questions to be drilled into them and things like that.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's true. Yep.
So how did you get started podcasting though? I mean, because it's an interesting area to get into for a lot of people, and a lot of people are like always asking me, it's like, how did you get started? I'm like, well, you know, it just hit me one day, Pete, for his anxiety. So how did yours start though?
Yeah. So you know, as part of my study of human behavior, I got certified as a life coach from the Life Coach School, and you know, and I started to develop you know, our coaching business, and I saw the results that Brooke Castillo and Jody Moore and some of these other ultra successful life coaches were having in through their podcast, just as a lead generation was the original idea that we started this. And we've only my podcast has only been going. We release an episode every week, every Thursday, and we're just a little over a year. So I think we're in like 60 some odd episodes right now. And so I feel like we're in the beginning stages of it, because yes, when you said, I was the same way. It was really clunky and difficult in the beginning to figure out the process and this and that. And I was hearing people say, oh, the total time commitment's only a half hour for me a week. It's just no big deal. I'm like, well, I never found that to be true, let me tell you.
Right? It's like, that's a lie. Stop lying to me. You know what's worse than that? It takes a lot more than what you're saying to this whole thing. When I meet new people all the time, they're always asking me questions about things. Like, one guy was asking me, what did he say? He said, man, how are you already monetized? And like, I've only been going for less than a year. I've already done 100 live episodes now. I'm way past that now. I think I have like at least 6-7 months of audio stacked up that I release every week. And, I've got, people that are asking me questions, and I'm like, I don't know how I did. I just kind of stumbled into it. And that was the main question, was like, how do you monetize the radio? I'm like, dude, I have no idea. I'm like, I'm just figuring this thing out just as you go. Well, how long have you been podcasting? I'm like, a few months. Like, oh, I had a podcast prior to this where it was just me and a couple of friends goofing around, doing some fun stuff, and then the conversations got a little too out of hand. And I was like, yeah, you need to dial this back a bit, because my wife, she was trying to support the idea originally. And then we got into some touchy conversations, and I had to pull back with the co-host. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to take a break and I'm going to refigure things out. And then this one just hit me all of a sudden. And when I posted it, not even within like, I think a week or two, I actually got an offer from a podcasting network that was starting up, a brand new one. Just want to try to get everybody's voice out there. They're trying to do a collection of newer podcasts that are just new to the scene. I was like, well, dude, I have nothing to record at the time this conversation is going on. He's like, oh no, that's fine. It's fine. I was like, okay, so you're all right. So yeah, I don't know, this thing is going to work. Oh no, don't worry about it. It's fine. You should just give it a shot. Why not? I was like, sure, why not? And here I am. I'm not even a year into this thing, because September would be my year. And I've already done 100 live episodes plus of these now, and they've been really supportive of everything I do. And it's been an interesting experience, because when I tell people that too, I'm like, yeah, I'm a part of a podcast. And they're like, you're a part of a network already? Dude, this, I have to keep telling the same story. Listen, I should just have this an idle dialogue for y'all to read. He said, oh, look on their all faces, all the same thing. Like, really? You're part of a podcast? And I'm like, yeah, man. Like, within the first 2 weeks of posting this idea of this show, someone had grabbed it and said, well, yeah, hey, listen, how about this idea? And then when I started booking for the show, I was out to the end of the year before, within like a next month or so, I already had it to the end of the year. One time slot I was already dedicated to. And it's like, all right, well, let me open another time slot. Why not? And then the other side shot open. I was like, okay, well, there's something here clearly. And then I think it was mid-November. It was when I started instituting the digital calendar. And then the calendar shot out to sometime in April. And then we went out to July. And I'm just like, holy crap, this is so surreal, because these people are lining up out the door to get on this show. And then in the beginning of the year, I was like, okay, let's see what I can do. Because I would ask the network, I was like, hey, listen, there's all this gap in the schedule. Do you have a problem if I use it and just go live? Keep the network going, things like that. And that way people we get more exposure, and I get more exposure too. So now I'm up to like almost every day of the week, except for Saturdays and Sundays. The other 2 days I don't. But I'm usually doing an interview almost every day, and it's great. And a lot of people are like, really? I'm like, yeah, listen, in the March alone, I did 28 interviews. Let me tell you, that was a long day, and it's so interesting, though, because this thing is taken off on its own, and I'm looking at this, like my YouTube channel numbers and things like that. I looked at it the other day, and I've got 28,000 views in the last 30 days on just the YouTube channel alone. I'm just like, holy crap, 28,000 people are looking at what I'm saying or what I'm doing. And it's gaining traction as we go, and then Instagram, it's been a real great source for some people I've run into too, other fellow podcasters and things like that. And then when I've interviewed a bunch of them, it was like, okay, well then these people and I stuck together. And it's like, now we have our own little network of friends that we hey, I had a great conversation with this person and things like that. It's so great, because it's like, I never would have been here if I hadn't started this thing. And I even got to meet a Holocaust survivor, Shane. That was probably the most interesting thing I've done so far while doing this. And I think it's great, honestly. I think it's the coolest thing I've ever got done to check the bucket list item off because you don't get to meet these people like that. And it was like I'm sitting there where this guy is talking about what he was going through, and it's so surreal. It's like you could read a book, but you got the actual source right here in front of you. This guy was telling us some wild stories of things, and these are things he went through the whole time. And the crazy thing I think was at the end of it was his message is, hey, everybody just love everybody. Let's not let the world forget about what happened. And I was just like, it just got to me. It was like, wow, like, man, this guy's been through so many things. And, it's so interesting to hear. And his only message is everybody love everybody. And, and podcasting has led to these opportunities. I've been on a bunch of other shows and done a bunch of other things. And it's been kind of interesting since the beginning. And we're not even within a year. I've still got a couple months to go for the full year of this thing to be in being completely even active. And it's been interesting where I've started to where I am now. It's just like it's so surreal though. And I think some days I have trouble recognizing my own success and things, and stuff like that. But it's like at the same time, it's like I can't lie that all these people are agreeing with what I'm doing is making a difference.
Yeah, that's you're doing a great job. That your podcast is proof of it, and your listenership and the people that watching. That I was on a podcast last night, and the guy was talking about. He just made the point that you can post something on Instagram and blink your eyes and have 1,000 views, but what you got across was maybe 7 to 12 seconds, and podcasting typically is going to take a longer time to get the same amount of views or downloads or the listenership or the number of people watching and whatnot, depending on how aggressive that you go about it. But it's a whole different level of communication, right? It's not just the skimming through the quick videos on a certain platform, and it's at a whole different level. I like that Alex Sanfilippo, the founder of Podmatch, talks about podcasting being, where to learn, not only where to learn now and in the future, but how to connect now and in the future to the kind of people around the world and the things that we're interested in. It's an incredible platform.
I agree. Alex has done something great with this thing, man, because I don't think I would have met half the people I know now, and the different resources of people I've been able to connect with. And I've actually been able to tap on them and say, hey, listen, I got a question, and that something would fall in their area. Hey, listen, I got a question for you for somebody, and it's been great because without this, I would have never met a lot of people that I've met now. Actually, one of my good friends, she runs the Will Healing Matters podcast. Catherine and I, we connected, and she's all the way out in Australia. And I'm over here in the US, and it's like we would have never met because had I not started doing this, because she was actually a guest on the show and I was a guest on her show, and her and I communicate all the time now about things and things like that. And she does like the different oracle readings and things like that. And it's so fascinating. All these people I get to meet. Actually, I talked to a medium the other day, and it was like, it was the most interesting conversation I've ever had in my life, And it's so cool because if it wasn't for Alex, I would have never met half of these people, or any of these people at all, honestly, because what he's put together is a great networking source for people. I tell people that all the time. Listen, man, for $6 a month, man, you can get in this thing and these database of people, the unlimited amount of people you could search, and things like that. You can look for any topic you want. And I always tell people with newer shows, I'm like, dude, you got to get on this thing. I'm telling you right now, you need to get into it now while you can, because this thing is going to take off and fly off the shelves, What Alex is doing is great. And then the fact they offer all the classes and things like that too is really cool too, because, all these different things that you can learn, and, he's constantly trying to help you all succeed and things like that too. And I know when Alex reached out to me directly the first time, I wasn't sure what to think of the email at first. I was like, I don't know. I didn't know anything in the beginning as much as I did, but then somebody else had mentioned it to me. Hey, there's this great site you got to check out, and I was like, okay, then I went back to my emails and was like, wait, never mind. Hold on. Alex reached out to me directly a long time ago and said, hey, man, I want you to check out the site, see what you think, and it's like, lo and behold, here I am now, 100 episodes plus later. And it's been a great time. All these people I connect with, all the different people I get to meet, all the different people across the world, and I'm getting to tap into different markets with different people. And, and then these fellow podcasters that are talking about me in these different markets are bringing my brand out even further for me, because now they're just mentioning just what I'm doing. Like, hey, listen, have you heard Pete versus anxiety? This is what Pete's doing, and it was funny because when the first conversation, when that happened, it turned out both of the people didn't realize I knew both of them. Okay. So I've been on one of their shows and I interviewed the other person. And then they're like, the person I was interviewed was like, hey, do you know Pete? And she's like, oh my God, yeah, I love Pete. And it was funny to listen to how they interacted because they're like, oh yeah, I know Pete. Yeah, Pete's great. Da, da, da. And they're saying they're talking, having a conversation about you. And it's like, it's funny when two people realize that you know each other. And then I hear from other people like, oh yeah, someone else mentioned your name. They're like, hey, da, da, da. Yeah, they were talking about you and how they knew you. And I was just like, oh, it's been great though. It's like, you can't get that much exposure for free, and the internet's great for certain things, like, marketing yourself, like even these like little clips, like YouTube shorts have been a lifesaver. Like, you don't realize how many people look at them, Shane. Like, I think I started like 500 views and I was like, okay, well, then I'm looking at this other one. I'm getting 5,000 views. I'm like, okay, well, hold up now. Now I'm reaching somebody because somebody's checking it out, and things like that too. And it's so interesting to see how many people follow you through your different clips. And that's why I try to spread it out through everywhere, like TikTok and all these other places, because there's always someone there to grab and grab somebody's attention to these other people that are all in the same area and the same thing that you believe in. And, and it's really great. So I try to experience it all, because I think that, once you limit yourself, that's it. You're limiting yourself. You might as well just go jump into it. Because if you don't try, you're never going to know.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. And your podcast, you're doing a good job. And a lot of people know that. And so, they're there with you. I kind of wanted to come back to the listeners and
definitely
make a comment on the, and the people watching, and make a comment on the, you talked about a Holocaust survivor. And I mean, I can't imagine the level of love and forgiveness that you can have inside of yourself. And this is something that I learned from horses. And that is that horses have boundaries. They have solid boundaries. And so what I mean by that is with a horse, a human being, a horse is a relationship. And so sometimes the human being, in this case, in my example, we'll use me, is going to do something that the horse or me or both of us are going to deem to be unfair or wrong or whatever. I'm going to react out of an emotion and I'm going to do something that I wish I wouldn't, because I'm a human being and that's the way it's going to go. Okay. I don't plan that, but when it happens, I'm going to accept that. So, excuse me. So when something in this relationship, when something happens, horses have boundaries. They will establish a boundary because they're not going to, be a martyr and throw themselves down and say, okay, I'm here to take advantage of me. They'll try to protect themselves and try to have justice and be, what they deem to be fair. But when I recognize that I did something that either I didn't know or I reacted or whatever the reason is, it's not important what the reason is. When I recognize that I did something that I want to change that I deem to be, we'll call it unfair. So now I'm going to change what I'm doing. Okay. So now I go back to the horse in this and he's like wondering, hey, are you going to, do that thing that I didn't understand again, or what's going to go down here? And he's getting ready, he's bracing, but I don't do it. Okay. And then I don't do it again. It only takes usually 2 or 3 times and there is no residue. And what I mean by that is my initial unfair activity behavior, it's gone. It's almost like that horse can't remember it after 2 or 3 times. Okay. I mean, there is no holding on. As human beings, a lot of times, and this Holocaust thing is just sticking with me that you're mentioning of the Holocaust survivor, because I can't imagine having that level of unfairness, or injustice in my life, and being able and not holding on to it and being able to let go, because a lot of us, we get wrapped up in in things that people have done to us and what that means about ourselves, and things that we've done and what that means about ourselves, and we don't let it go. Horses just like live in the moment. They just, if you're not going to do it anymore, it's over. You're not even going to hear about it anymore, and it's gone. Okay. Yeah. And here's the thing. Here's what I want to say. And that is it begins with us. It's not just what other people have done. A lot of times for example, trauma in terrible cases, human beings that do things to other human beings. And when something is done to us, we can make that mean something about us that's not good. Okay. And we do things. Okay. We've all done some stuff. I've done some stuff that we are not going to talk about today. Okay. But we've all done some stuff. We've all done something. Okay. Whatever it is, maybe it's this, maybe it's a bankruptcy, maybe it's a moral infraction, maybe it's a lie, maybe it's a whatever it is, maybe we've just really acted out and harmed somebody in whatever the thing is. We've all done plenty of things. Okay.
Yeah.
If we look at it. So the question is what does that mean about you? Okay. Right here in the town I live in Las Vegas, Nevada, just recently, there was a veterinarian who did something that he regretted. He kicked a horse.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Now I know what you're talking about. Yeah. I thought that's what you were referencing. Okay.
And he kicked the horse in the head. Okay. And then he wrote a public apology about it. And a few days later, he committed suicide because he couldn't live with what he had done for whatever reason. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because of all the condemning comments, but yet alone, he was responsible for what he did. Okay.
Yeah.
What I'm saying about us, why am I bringing that up? Because there's a message in it for me and for you. And that is this: regardless of what you have done, and regardless of what you've not done, and regardless of what has been done to you, and I mean regardless, my message to you is that it's not a good idea to have a loving relationship with yourself and to commit to this idea that I have of establishing beliefs that you like about yourself. I don't just think it's a good idea. I think it is our duty to ourselves, to the people that we love, and to the world, because unless we recognize what is internally happening to us about our beliefs about ourselves, regardless of what I just said, regardless of all of it, okay, that we can separate what we have done and what has been done to us and separate that from who we are and our worth as a human being. And this is not just something that you do and it's over. It is a lifelong pursuit of developing a loving relationship with myself. If we don't do that, okay, the reason I don't think it's a good idea, I think it's our duty, is because without it, we will not be able to, in the short time that we get to breathe in and out, be able to make the contribution. We won't be able to develop ourselves to our potential, and we won't be able to make our contribution to the people that we deeply care about, because what is inside of us is coming out to them, and we won't be able to make our full contribution to the world that we are capable of doing while we are alive. So I'm here to tell you, regardless of what you've done or what's been done to you, believe me, consider the pursuit of knowing, because I know it about you and I know it about me, that we are 100% worthy, 100% deserving of everything, regardless of it all. And that's my message.
I love it, Shane. I love it so much, man. All right, guys, as we start wrapping up, Shane, you said you release new episodes every Thursday, right? Do you want to let everybody know where they can find you? I will have all of the stuff listed down below. I have all your socials, your website, things like that. But you want to go ahead and let them know where they can find you in case they want to reach out or listen. Obviously, they can listen to your podcast everywhere, correct?
Podcast is everywhere. The Stable Parenting Podcast. I appreciate that. The best place to reach us. We're on all the media, but Stable Parenting. I said the Stable Parenting Podcast, now stablelivingcoaching.com.
Okay. Well, yeah, definitely. Like I said, I'll have all that down below, the description of the video and things like that. And Shane, I want to thank you so much for coming, man. I thought it was a very interesting conversation. I think what you're doing is something totally different. It's going to blow people's minds, you know. And like I said, you're only a year into this thing, man. You don't even know what's going to happen down the road. You know, all these people are going to start seeing these things and start going, oh man, damn, that's awesome. You know, I think what you're doing is a unique approach to things, man. And I think that, hats off to you, man, because I think that, what you're doing out there is you're making a difference, and everything that, you say, all your inspirational words and things like that, they're going to touch somebody's heart, man. Somebody's going to hear this and they're going to be like, damn, Shane's right. It makes sense. Exactly what he was just saying, and all that great stuff. So I do appreciate you coming and everything like that, man. It's been great having you.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity, and everybody who listens to this.
Well, guys, we're going to wrap this episode of Pete vs. Anxiety up. Guys, so to find me on Pete vs. Anxiety on X all the way down to TikTok. I'm on Spotify all the way down to iHeartRadio. And as I always say, it costs absolutely nothing to be kind to somebody. One kind act you could do can save someone's life, or hell, you can make their day. I'm Pete vs. Anxiety I'm saying, hey, don't ask how your day is. Say, hey,